Hi everybody. In this video we will talk about endo and exothermic changes. It has to do with heat. A chemical reaction could be endothermic, a chemical reaction could be exothermic. As I was talking about earlier, that you can have during a chemical reaction, a chemical reaction or a chemical change, one of the signs for a chemical reaction is the change in temperature. Okay, the signs of chemical reaction, and we talked about change in temperature. So what happens is that I am doing a chemical reaction and I have substance A and I pour a substance B into this. So all of a sudden I have a thermometer in there, and I will notice that temperature will start rising or it will start dropping. So that means these two things, when they are reacting together, they are giving out heat, or they are taking in heat. Okay, so either they are giving out heat, so heat goes out, or heat goes in. Now just imagine that you have a beaker, you have substance A and plus B, you add the B together, in it, and they're reacting now. If heat goes out, like they're reacting, they give out the heat, when you touch the beaker, what would you feel? When heat goes out, they're giving out heat and they're reacting. You're not heating it, there is no heat, you're not putting it on the stove. They're reacting and they're giving out heat. So if they are giving out heat and you touch it, okay, you will see it, feel it hot on touch. That means it has given out heat. It's giving out heat. Such a reaction in which heat comes out is called exothermic. The word exothermic means heat goes out. Okay, so again, you put A and B together, they react and they give out heat. That reaction is called exothermic, and when you touch it, it will feel hot because heat is going out, and of course beaker is the first thing to absorb that heat, so beaker will get hot. On the other hand, if I have a beaker and I have a substance A and B, they're reacting together. So if they react together and they need heat to react together, they will absorb the heat from the beaker because they need more heat, and I'm not heating it, they need heat. Okay, so if it is absorbing heat, of course it's going to absorb it from the beaker. So when I touch the beaker feels cold. Okay, it feels cold because the heat was absorbed by A and B. So they are taking in heat. A and B are taking in heat. So a chemical reaction that takes in heat is called endothermic. So there are two types of chemical reaction. One is endothermic, one is exothermic. So when they take in heat, okay, it is called endothermic. If I have a thermometer in there, the temperature will drop, okay, because the A and B is taking all the heat. And if the heat is going out, it is called exothermic. If I have the temperature in there, thermometer in there, the temperature will rise. So this is what exothermic and endothermic is. So here you take the notes. A chemical reaction, you're creating a new substance. Okay, so you have, instead of A and B, you have X and Y, you're adding it together. So when you do that, the heat goes in. Okay, the heat goes in or heat goes out. So here is a chemical reaction. For endothermic, reaction requires heat to happen. So it absorbs from the outside. And what is outside? Outside was beaker in my example. So when you feel it, it will feel cold because the the chemicals have absorbed all the heat. So the reaction will show. So I have reactants on this side. They need to absorb the heat to bake the products. So these are your reactants. Write it clearly. Um, these are the reactants, and these are the products. So if the heat is on the reactant side, before the arrow, if the heat is on the reactant side, it is endothermic, because they need heat to make this. So they absorb the heat before they do anything. So that's endothermic. Exothermic means the reaction doesn't need heat, but it will give you extra heat. So when you touch it, it will feel hot, and the heat will be released with the products. The heat is released with products. So you will have the reactants here. Reactants don't need any heat. They will do whatever they need to do and release the heat with the product. So if the heat is on the right side of the equation, after the arrow, it is exothermic. If heat is on the left side of the equation, in the reactant side, then it is endothermic. So this is exothermic and endothermic. You have to take the notes, complete the process, practice the questions, and then go from there.